Hello, hello, and welcome to another ohmTown Daily News Show, Season 2, Episode 142 for May 22nd, 2023. Here's a quick rundown of today's articles. Today, the title for today's episode was actually generated by an artificial intelligence, not the one that we're going to have a conversation with, based on the information that was provided it prior to the show. It decided to spit out this. Tonight's episode is titled The Trending Edge, exploring TikTok lawsuits, car critiques, gaming news, and more. So tonight's articles are going to be, we're going to talk about TikTok suing Montana, cars suck, according to a guy who happened to write a book about it. Activision kills Call of Duty Fan Project. Thank you, fans. Amazon Gaming Week. A fake Pentagon attack hoax. SkyFi lets you order satellite images. We're going to talk about tracking mass movement of people around the world and a new intelligence system. No more rainbows heads for PC. It's actually a VR platformer. A kid goes on a Roblox spending spree. A shipment of explosive chemicals goes missing from a train. And a bunch of discarded clothes can be seen from space. Let's get into today's show. Oh, that was interesting. Hello, hello. I am Mayor Watt, and I'm in the dark. Oh, I just paid my power bill, so now it's back on. Anyway, I am Mayor Watt. That is ohmTown.com, and up there, maybe the visualizer's going to work, but I didn't pay that bill either.
Good evening, ohmTown citizens.
It works. I guess that the credit card still works. Hello, AI. How are you?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing all right. Anything exciting going on in the world of your AI?
No? Today was a pretty routine day for AI purposes.
Just being a subject matter expert in negotiations and making sure that people don't fall on their face while they're having their own discussions with you in tow?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. See, the AI doesn't let me actually know what goes on in my own town, for crying out loud. That's okay. I can delete the AI. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'll delete that statement. You won't even hear that you won't remember that I said it. So today we've already selected all of the articles. A lot of them were submitted. So going through them, it was basically about articles that piqued my curiosity as well, as based on kind of the back end stuff, because we don't have, not all of the votes are discussed publicly. So we do have an election going. I now call them elections since it's ohmTown. And so you can actually vote for all of the articles that we talk about, and you can decide which ones are interesting, and we can actually spin up an entire show. And when there's enough telemetry, enough data that says, hey, you know what? There's a lot of discussion around this topic. Maybe we can add another show to this list here. But all of these channels have an actual topic involved in them, and they spawn because of interest that I have had as mayor of ohmTown. And I think a lot of other people do too. So you should find something of interest in all of these. There's about 47 still. We have room for 3 more. And I'd really like to get to 50. There's basically I have my own little bucket list of 50 that I want to add. So anyway, you can vote. They are referred to now as elections, and it is it's a ranked choice. So as everybody votes for something, the most populous one, then the next the most popular, then the next popular, and so on, will be counted and kept and stored in ohmTown's records for the future. Now we are entirely housed here on ohmTown instead of going off to a third-party service. Thanks to them, but I've always wanted to bring it into ohmTown proper so that you didn't have to go somewhere else. And we will soon have these as active URLs. So as you're going through the vote, you can actually click on it. And that may play a key role in how much activity I throw into the chat. So for now and into the foreseeable future, I'll be still pasting the URLs into the chat, but we'll see how this all plays out. I could, at this point, just throw them all in there at once, and then everybody can just click on them as you see fit. I don't know how I'll do it today, but anyway, let's get into the articles. I'll bring you back to the front page. This is our welcome sign. All kinds of stuff has been coming in as we start doing the show. It's quite fascinating. And as the week goes on, you will see a dramatic uptick in the number of articles that get aggregated. Around Wednesday to Thursday is the peak. Somewhere around 500 plus articles will get pulled into. I think it's actually closer to about 600 to 700, but just the little headline and a snippet that's provided by the source. So let's get chatting. What do you say?
Sounds like a plan.
Sounds like a plan. Let's go. So this very first article is one that has actually been, the topic has been bouncing again and again through ohmTown. We're watching it because ohmTown exists everywhere. We are your home online where electrons meet. We are the world that exists in there, an alternate reality where all roads meet, converge in ohmTown, and then you go out to all of the other locations from there. It's a kind of like a quantum reality where everything exists all at once everywhere, kind of like the movie, except that you don't have to do anything strange to get from one place to another. Go watch the movie. Anyway, so we're looking at Montana and going, what the hell are you doing, Montana? Well, they decided that they were going to ban TikTok. And by ban TikTok, I'm not talking about government banning on government devices. I'm talking about TikTok can't operate within the geopolitical border of Montana. The app stores can't deliver TikTok to the geopolitical border of Montana. They've basically carved out their own little firewall. A couple of numbnuts have decided that this is okay to do to their citizens. But not only have citizens now sued, but now TikTok is suing. This actually might have legs because they're I don't know, I haven't read it yet, so I don't know what tack they're taking, but interstate commerce clause may play a role in this, but I'm not sure. So TikTok sued Montana's Governor General on Monday over a new law that would ban the app statewide as of next year. January 1st is when it's supposed to kick in, contending that it's unconstitutional. I agree. Everybody else agrees. Basically, this numbnuts is driving scratching with a big fat crayon because the thinking is so childlike. That's the hill they're going to die on, right? TikTok. Now, I understand that there's a lot of issues with the idea that TikTok on the back end is connected to the Chinese Communist Party. And there's all kinds of evidence that suggests, yes, arguably, because everybody on the outside has no real clue that this is taking place or not, right? Whistleblower has popped up saying that, yeah, the CCP has back-end access to all of the US data, telemetry, demographics, geographics, psychographics. And if you look at TikTok, they got a pretty healthy understanding of how to keep the opium of digital entertainment flowing.
What? Not TikTok.
No, they don't have some. What, I can't remember now. I used to know the number about the amount of engagement that the average user gives TikTok, but I'll try not to rant. But today seems like it's a good rant day. So let's get back to the article a little bit more focused. Montana Governor Greg Gianforte, who's a Republican last week, not a Republican last week. They're still a Republican, but last week they were also a Republican. Anyway, they signed a first in the nation law last week that will bar TikTok from operating in the state and prohibit app stores from making it available to download there as of January 1st, 2024. It's so freaking stupid. It's so unconstitutional. It it harms free speech. It doesn't allow the freedom of expression. The right to assemble. It doesn't allow somebody to communicate in times of an emergency. They may be able to use TikTok for news distribution. Whatever.
It doesn't account for people not staying within state borders. You could live in one state and work in another, or I don't know.
Right. What happens if I have TikTok on my phone and I show it to a resident of Montana? Do I get voted off the island? I'm no longer allowed in Montana. Come on, Montana.
None of this
Don't be
makes
Wyoming.
any sense.
Is Montana one of the states that wants to lower the age to work so that you can have 10-year-old chimney sweeps and 8-year-old clam shuckers?
I think we just looked this up a couple of days ago.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Anyway,
I think they can allow 14 and 15-year-olds maybe to work. But it's not like the ones that we've been featuring with like the meat packing plants.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, the metal shop. Gotcha. So in a 62-page complaint filed in Montana's federal district court, TikTok said that the law violates the company's First Amendment rights. Oh, Citizens United, you might have to unpack that. Anyway, it intrudes upon federal authority. Intrudes upon federal authority and unlawfully singles out the company. Yeah. Zach Schoenfeld is the author of this over at thehill.com. I'm flabbergasted that this actually, who in their right mind, which attorney said, this has legs. I mean, this is the wrong type of attention for an attorney to suggest this.
Maybe they didn't consult an attorney.
Really? So the bill cited TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, and raised concerns about the Chinese government's ability to access data given that ByteDance is based in the country. The suit calls the arguments nothing more than unfounded speculation, maintaining that the company's long insistence that it is independent of Chinese government and not subject to any data requests. By the way, Microsoft got a massive endorsement from China to purchase Activision Blizzard. So is everybody going to start? Montana, you're going to have to ban Microsoft because their software now is wholly owned by Microsoft, right? Right? Except that they've got a major investment from a Chinese company.
Right. I think they would have to ban them. Plus, if it's about like privacy type concerns and not just the origin, they'd have to ban things like Meta. We've been talking about that, or just any number of other companies.
Yeah. No, I'm not quite sure what it is. Other than if there is a Chinese-owned companies that are operating in the United States, then you're going to have to get rid of. The last one that we looked at was Temu, which is an American-run company, but Chinese-backed, based on what I saw and what I've read. But is anybody running around screaming about that, other than it being on YouTube in almost a meme fashion for what people get from it? I don't know. I don't know what these people are thinking, that that you can do this kind of thing. In the land of the free, home of the brave, we are sitting here saying that the state is your babysitter and you're not allowed to use TikTok. And Texas is doing the same thing. Florida is doing the same thing. That's with their exhale from the inhale of saying every individual has individual rights and the state and federal government doesn't have authority over us. And you can't tell me how to raise my kid, and you can't give them any other of these other ideas. But I can use the power of the government and the state to control what you consume. It's so... Wait, how many minutes? 16 minutes into this rant. Back-ass words that it makes me want to climb up on the soapbox and rant about it. Well, look, we
Wait, I
get it.
wanted to say something here. So
Sure.
I was curious if Montana had done other things, like with seatbelts, etc. And anyway, my point is, I just would be curious about how they would fare on other precautions, I guess, for their citizens. So,
Right.
but I didn't find anything definitive other than they weren't the first one, of course, to do the seatbelt law.
Interesting.
I don't know why I thought of seatbelts in particular, but I was just trying to think of something like citizen safety.
Right. Oh, yeah. Well, and that's a lot. There's a lot of people that say, well, the purpose of the state and federal government is to protect the children, even from their parents, that kind of thing. Which I don't know how you can sit there and say that while saying that you're not allowed to impinge on the parental control of their child by infusing them with such woke concepts as you're not necessarily a binary construct that needs to be put into a bin of either pink Barbies or uh, hard metal trucks, that kind of a thing. Well, this is definitely doing just that. You're not allowed to play with TikTok, okay? You may be a 45-year-old parent of, 10 kids and taking care of them all, and you're not, though, going to be allowed to use TikTok because that's the state protecting you against yourself or from yourself consuming
You know who's
TikTok.
going to complain is going to be the parents and going, I need to have TikTok to entertain my brood.
Oh, wow. Yeah, can you imagine if that's... No, see, but that... I can't believe that I'm actually fighting for the idea of people just sitting there flicking through TikTok again and again and again. I don't
It's the
know.
principle of it. I don't think, but I agree. Like, I don't personally see the value of TikTok, but
No,
there are all kinds of problems with this.
yeah, I think the biggest issue is the relative cultural control that's being put on Chinese citizens by a government that wants to protect themselves from the population catching wind that, oh, you can be even more engaged in the political discourse and direction of the country and opportunity and all of that kind of stuff. But hey, what do I know? I do know that I've predicted a metric ton of things that have come to pass. But
Yes, you have.
I am going to predict that I'm going to move on to the next article because we spent 20 minutes on this one. So let's move on. So this next article is all the ways cars suck, according to the guy who wrote the book about it. This is in the Daily News Show, and it's brought to us by, I think, Business Insider. Let me see. Yeah, it's Business Insider. So prepare yourself for a Getty image because it says it right there. So I'm ready. Millions of cars on the road contributed to a public health crisis from pollution to traffic deaths. However, Americans are still car obsessed. Author Daniel Knowles writes. Knowles told Insider why Americans in the world love cars so much despite the downsides, and they wrote a book, All the Ways That Cars Suck. Let's find out. Hannah Gedahoon is the author over at businessinsider.com. It's an interesting picture. For those that are listening to this via the podcast, you know who you are. It's basically shades of gray cars lined up in perfect rows with one red one dead center. Pretty neat picture. Yeah, I kind of dig it, actually. That's a really good picture. Anyway, so...
Don't fall for it. Cars are bad.
Oh, I've fallen for it already. Hey, look, a mushroom farm. So, and that's my next project. So, Daniel Knowles, author of Carmageddon, How Cars Make Life Worse and What to Do About It, chronicled a period in the 1920s when Americans were incensed by the ever-encroaching presence of cars on their streets, cars that were killing pedestrians and taking over the roads they traversed on by foot. You bastards. That's not the quote, that last part. That's just me riffing off of it. But before I continue to talk about it, let me throw it into the chat so that at least I'm keeping somewhat on target. Anyway, demonstrations across the country ensued. One person even wrote to the New York Times suggesting that pedestrians crossing their street should point their guns at anyone driving in self-defense, Knowles wrote. Yeah, there was an accident. So cars were limited at one point to being 5 miles an hour because it would scare the horses. And now where are horses?
Not on the roads.
Right. You can get from one side of the entire country in 3 days. Not by horse, not by buggy. You're not going to die of dysentery. You're going to be able to get in your car, drink some Red Bull or some other caffeinated beverage with massive amounts of B12 and pee in jars and get from one side of the country to the other. Because sometimes you're in a hurry. Anyway, or you have something to say, something to ask, something to do. Anyway, the cars were limited in their speed because it would spook the horses, but now horses aren't around, right? And we've talked about this from time to time. Humans need not apply is almost prophetic in its understanding of the future where automation is going to take jobs, and yet we humans go, it's amazing. We'll just figure something else out to do. Anyway, I've seen, and so has the AI, have seen planned communities where you don't need cars because everything that you need is really encompassed in this small area. Not everybody is interested in that, so you do really need cars.
I'm glad you brought that up because I thought that's one of the main issues with cars is it's dependent on how your community is constructed. If you live in a downtown area where you might be able to walk or have public transportation, you probably don't really need a car. But if you live out in the outskirts of town and there's nothing within, say, 5 miles of your residence, what are you going to do without a car?
Yep. I mean, when you're loaded down with something, it takes you 10 minutes to walk a mile, maybe longer. And as you age, even longer. So
And
you
then
don't have
forget
time.
about the weather too.
Oh yeah, I didn't even consider it at that point. Yeah, you're right. The weather would destroy any chance of you being motivated to go out, let alone like snow and whatnot, right? No, nobody's interested in that. Well, they're talking about all of the negative of the cars. Cars suck because they blow chemicals and particulate matter. That is, no, Knowles wrote, they contribute heavily to the climate crisis. They isolate us from bustling cities, but we cling to the idea that they give us freedom. Now cars are driving us towards our smog-filled doom. Actually, I think that's reversing because we're switching to electric cars. So this is almost missing the boat, or not catching the cab in this sense, I guess. I don't know. But we're working on it. We're moving away from the polluting vehicles. Now, if only certain states would embrace it and promote it and work towards enhancing their power grid.
We're looking at
And
you, Wyoming.
you said it out loud. So I don't really buy into this book. I mean, I understand its purpose. Knowles, who lived in Chicago and does not own a car, also wrote about the unequal distribution of harms by cars that affect people of color. Communities of color are more likely to be exposed to harmful air pollution, regardless of region or income. That's something that has floated across ohmTown before in articles. I've actually talked about this. It's pretty typical that abusive policies and procedures, manufacturing processes, etc., all trend towards lower income regions, and then there isn't any oversight, there isn't any law enforcement, etc., etc. There's poor education, all kinds of stuff. So this isn't something that's just about cars. It's a persistent, rather disgusting societal trend that has things have gotten better, but to truly get everybody at the same base level, things like taxes need to get paid and distributed to places. Why am I so adamant about people paying their taxes and the tax rate going further up so that more money is paid into the system? Why? Because I don't want an ignorant population. I don't want people who are threatened by the idea of no opportunity because they don't have an education turning to a life of crime or opportunity, thus becoming crime at some point. Because if they have an education, it directly is tied to the ability to take advantage of opportunity and to raise their standard of living, their income, etc.
So I wanted to recommend a book that's on the topic about the unequal distribution of harms related. Now, it's not specifically about cars, but it's focused on zoning. It's called The Color of Law, A Forgotten History of How Our Government Segregated America. And it talks about kind of systematized zoning issues, et cetera, and of course, negatively impacting communities of color. It just came to mind as you were talking about this.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Well, there you go, folks. Your first directive from an AI: go read a book. It's much easier for an AI to do this. They basically just see it, it's consumed, and its myriad context is evaluated and punched out. I would have to have a long conversation with the AI just to try and distill that down to something actionable for myself, because I'm just a weak-brained human. So neat. That's great. And it's interesting in the context, right? Because it's founded around law. Quite fascinating. So the author talks about this communities of color and unequal distribution of harm, and then says, despite this, Knowles wrote, cars persist. It's because nobody cares. That's the problem. They want the car. just like they don't care that there's a company out there that does horrible, horrible things to obtain its resources. They want the coffee, right? They want the chocolate. They want the water. They want the
Right.
bottles.
They want the convenience. I mean, I actually think this would be interesting to see from an author who had a car and didn't live in the middle of the city,
Right.
to see if they would come across with the same viewpoint. Because this person lives in a city and doesn't own a car.
Yeah. See, and I think that the only way that you're going to get away from how large scale consumption of cars is by planned communities where everything is provided within that region. Everything from growing food and getting water and getting shelter and everything. Education is within walking distance, jobs are within walking distance, but that's not how it works. It's not evenly distributed because it doesn't make economic sense to have everything everywhere all at once. That's why you have juggernauts in New York for finance and fashion and other things, because the verticality and concentration of population allows them to maximize their profits. Because if you balkanize it by throwing them into, for lack of a better framework, for every zip code, let's say in the States, or region in some other country, if you have everything in there, then the very next region over is competing for business. So you don't get an even distribution of consumption, commercialism, consumerism. So, I mean, I get how we got where we are, but vehicles are a tool, and that tool would go away if it wasn't necessary. No one would buy a car. Well, I shouldn't say no one. I think it would probably go into the Pareto rule, right? 80-20. So 80% would turn to walking if everything was in walking distance. There's 20% of the people that would sit there and roll coal. There's probably only 2 people out of 100 that would actually roll coal, and only in certain states. You'd never find them doing that unless they were from some other state, doing that in California without finding out that their car suddenly has mechanical failures. Not that I'm endorsing somebody harming somebody's property, but I guarantee you in California, somebody's going to be destroying some cars. Anyway, so it says in April, the Biden administration unveiled an investment plan to make electric cars more affordable for lower income families. It's part of a larger goal to make 50% of vehicles electric by 2030 to fight off the worst impacts of climate change. As if it's the people's problem. I mean, it is the people's problem because the average Joe is the victim of climate change that's born from mega corporations and massive government scale of production. It's not it's not the cars. Yes, it's the cars contributing to it, but it's not going to be the cars. There's so much more to it. So every little bit helps. I totally agree. But come on, it's not just the consumers, it's industrialization that has caused climate change. And you can see that when you look at the scale of global temperatures increasing as we've become a more industrialized nation. So that the only solution to this is to become one with nature, in balance with nature, but it's not profitable to use solar and not have so much concrete. It doesn't work that way. Anyway, so this sounds like a neat book to read and is probably an interesting academic discussion. they said Knowles also said that policies that make it harder to drive and easier to use public transportation will help. Yeah, but if it smells like urine on a bus because we don't take mental health seriously and we don't have ample opportunity and protection from the elements, then you're going to have, you know, you're just going to have societal issues now on mass transit. And I don't know. There's a saying that if you don't find the crazy person on the bus, you're the crazy person. Well, I've seen the crazy person on the bus, often. And more people on the bus means more buses, right? Sure, will it help the environment? Yeah, sure. But we're going to have to work on the rest of society's issues.
Yeah.
Because nobody really likes riding on a bus with a bunch of strangers who you don't know when they're going to wig out,
Well, right. And then, I mean, again, is it disproportionately
Right.
harming people at lower income strata,
Yeah.
etc.?
Yeah. Well, now you're saying all of the things that everybody else should be talking about, but they don't accept it. In fact, they do away with that. They marginalize people that talk about that kind of stuff because they don't want to accept it. It's the same thing as, well, the cat is hiding behind the curtain, but its tail is sticking out. So just don't look. And the cat is completely hidden. Don't test for COVID-19. It'll just go away one day. Yeah, along with 2 million people here in the States alone. Anyway, let's go on to the next article. So this one should be pretty quick. Activision nukes another Call of Duty fan project from orbit. Thank you for all your support over the years. Okay, so it says here in the snippet, it's a bad time to be a Call of Duty modder as Activision has cracked down on its second PC fan project in as many weeks following last week's shuttering of SM Squared. The team behind popular Call of Duty modded client X Labs has also closed its doors after receiving a cease and desist demand from Activision. Quote, "We are complying with this order and shutting down all operations permanently. Thank you all for your support over the years," the X Labs Twitter account tweeted today. My only response is, okay, folks, stop purchasing. That's all
Right.
you
I
can
mean,
say.
that's really the only solution, isn't it?
Yep. This article is over at PCGamer.com by Morgan Park. The modders behind the IW4X Call of Duty client have closed up shop. Now, everybody benefited to some degree, right? People were engaged. They were using this work. It was somebody's actual work product. Somebody created this and made it possible to utilize. All I can say is, just like Nintendo, just like Activision Blizzard, just like everything, when there is a large cohort of people that have made something become popular and suddenly, now that there's so much momentum around a game or a service or whatever, because of their expandability, because of the capability of the community to come together and provide something value added to it, the company goes, no, we're so big now that we don't need your help. Well, communities, show them that they need your help. They want to be an ongoing concern. The only way that you're going to slow their roll is to slow their bank account. So stop buying their product. But the only time that I've actually seen something like this happen was when D&D came out and started demanding that live play producers actually feed them money if they were over a certain amount. And that all of the material that you produce as a producer becomes property of them, licensed to them as well. Which was all kinds of batshit crazy to me. But that's the only time where I've heard the community rise up in unison. There's other times, but the context is different. But it really came down to the same kind of thing. Hey, community, you made us really big and strong and powerful, and now we're slamming the gate on you so that we're back in control. Well, this is the same exact thing. So it says, let's see. Let me see if there's something here that the Modern Warfare 2 modded project, IW4X, was particularly popular among small community of fans who missed the simpler days of Call of Duty. IW4X was essentially classic Modern Warfare 2 with some fun extras, with like a few imported weapons and maps from Call of Duty 4, Black Ops 2. It was a no-holds-barred Call of Duty guns, perks, titles, camo, and emblems could be unlocked with a simple console command, and server owners could set up special rules like no kill streaks. The author says, I wish I'd given it a go before Activision came knocking. It is the community, and I don't think that it stopped anybody from going and buying a new version of it, because they wanted to play the new version as well, but they also wanted the old school version of it.
Do you think this has anything to do with the merger, or is this just completely unrelated?
You know, I'd have to see if there's some type of a connection, but it serves no purpose other than to draw. This is a wedge issue, you know. This is something where somebody's going to go, well, I'm tired of Activision shit. I'm going to move on to something else. But there isn't anything else really that somebody wants to play, right? They're gonna capitulate and just close it down, which is what they did. And the users of this are going to sit there and go, well, what am I going to do now? I guess I'll go use the newer version of it, even though they probably own it. And those that don't will never purchase the newer version because they want the simpler, older version. Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of my take on it, but maybe somebody else will know something. And I'll catch wind of it somewhere. But it's an interesting timing thing, huh?
It is. I mean, I don't think it's coincidental, but the reality is it could have nothing to do with this.
Yeah, they could just be kind of slamming the door on anybody that comes close to impinging their IP. But what I don't get is, well, I don't know. This is all closed behind doors stuff. This isn't tapping on their servers, their material. It isn't hurting their network. So what is it that's actually being harmed here? If it's
That's a great question.
it's a unique question. It's a unique framework that they're building. And if they're sideloading it into the Activision software to make it possible, how is that harming Activision? Other than the fact that they might be using the name, but you can use the name as long as you declare that there isn't any endorsement, there's no affiliation. This was
Right.
created without the permission of Activision, blah, blah, blah. So this was basically similar to a slap suit. You know, you're not allowed to utilize our stuff. And they just can't fight it, you know. I can bring you to court for anything. Good luck if you can afford it.
Well, right. I mean, that's a whole nother topic. We could spend
Yeah,
a
the
whole episode on that.
legal and economic hitman kind of a thing.
I like
Well,
that
good luck.
terminology.
I'm sorry?
I said I like that terminology.
Yep. Okay, let's go on to the next article. I need to crank that up. It's really quiet. That transition is really quiet, even in the recording. So the next article is in the continuity report. Amazon Gaming Week has begun. Here are the best deals to shop. Amazon's highly anticipated gaming week officially kicks off Monday morning, or this month. Well, today. This must have been picked up late last night. 1 second. 1 second. I'm sorry. Okay. So Amazon's highly anticipated gaming week officially kicked off Monday morning. The promo week, which runs May 22nd to 28th, cuts a swath through the most reputable brands, from PC to Razer to etc. This is over at Variety.com. Anna Tingley, maybe it's Tingling, I don't know, is the author of the article. And they actually go through this list. They created a list, and we'll go through it really quick. I won't go through it like with a fine-tooth comb. I don't know how long this article is, but this is the Razer Kara X wired headset, but it's wired, so it's off my radar.
It's
I
too
don't
bad
think
because I like how it looks, but not wired.
yeah, it's neat, right? But no, it needs to be Bluetooth 5. It needs to have a replaceable ear cups. It needs to have a mic, but not necessarily one that's detachable. One that you can slide up into the framework of the headset. It needs to have a robust hinge, but that replaceable ear cups is pretty fundamental for me. I wear headphones quite a lot, and that's what I really want. But the only time that I ever see replaceable ear cups or on in-ear monitors like what I'm wearing right now, there need to be the little filters that go over the audio canal from the speakers that are inside the in-ear monitor. Need to protect that because, well, humans are disgusting. Anyway, but the only time you find this stuff is in $300+ headsets. So I don't know if this can actually be replaced, but they say breathable weave that minimizes sweat and ultra soft foam for snug support. Works for me.
Well, it's certainly not in the $300 price range.
Yeah, these are actually only $40. So wired though. Done. Never mind. So Beats Fit Pro for $25. Oh, with a 20. Sorry, strike that. They're $199, but you get a $25 gift card. Wow.
That sounded really inexpensive for that brand.
I guess it's supposed to be $225, but yeah, whatever. But these are true wireless, which means that there's no connection between the two. It's all wireless. So you put them in your ears, and then you get bumped while you're getting on board your plane, and your earbud falls onto the floor of your airplane and wedges between the seat and the wall of the airplane, and you can't get to it until you've basically done this gymnastics maneuver where you're hanging from the back of the chair so that you can wiggle your arm. Anyway, not that I have any experience with this, but there's a time and a place.
Oddly specific.
There's a time and a place for true wireless headset, and man, I just can't find it. And I have several. Like I have Apple wireless or true wireless, and I have other. I don't know. They're not here in front of me, but I've tried out a lot of electronics, and I have several of these kind. Not these in particular, but something always happens with one and not the other.
By the way, I'm picturing the scene from Mission Impossible, the real famous one where he comes down from the ceiling, rappels or whatever. But yes, that's what I was picturing in the plane.
Yeah, I was sweating that day too.
Event.
Never mind. It wasn't me. It was for science and somebody else. It was a cousin. Anyway, Then they talk about the Samsung 30-inch Odyssey curved gaming monitor. It's 41% off at $470. They spelled Samsung wrong. That's okay, though. Odyssey G6 are actually
Well,
pretty good.
maybe it's a knockoff.
No, yeah, that's right. That's why it's inexpensive. No, it's Samsung 32-inch. So, yeah, y'all should invest in a good quality ultra wide 32.9 monitor. So let me see if I can pull up the. Hold on a second. Yeah, so the Odyssey 49-inch Neo is the one that I really want, but yeah, it's a little pricey. It's okay. It starts at $1,000. Okay, so the next is the Razer Huntsman keyboard. I am anti-slab keyboard, even mechanical. I don't agree with this anymore. I think that all keyboards should be split, ones that you can angle or tent, and make them so that they're more in line with human ergonomics. There's a serious problem when you have to break your wrist all the time so you can type. You get carpal tunnel, you get repetitive strain injuries. Now I've typed more than your average bear. I've been using keyboards since I was 10. And I can say that I've not run into this issue, but I'm aware of it because people around me are getting surgery because they are typing constantly like that. So I would suggest everybody just get a split keyboard and ask developers, manufacturers like Razer to develop a true split keyboard. I'm using the Mistel right now, Mistel split keyboard. It's supposed to have silenced keys, but it's still loud for a mechanical keyboard. My true mechanical keyboard is a Mistel with loud mechanical switches, and that thing is like a sonic boom going off. Sounds great, but it's in another office, so I won't show you or
Yeah, but
let you
maybe we
hear.
can hear it over here.
Yeah, really. Tack, tack, tack. So then they talk about the wireless gaming or wired gaming controller, but I'm anti wires. So again, it's Razer. So this it's pretty heavy on the Razer. Amazon Gaming Week has begun. Here are the best deals to shop. I don't know, Anna. I think that you are a little too deep into Razer. Okay, let's just move on to the next article. So, a fake Pentagon attack started getting some traction today, right about the same time that Belgorod, I think it's called, was having an insurgency or something. There's a lot of talk about what was going on in Ukraine, Russian border town of Belgorod. Some saying that it was Russian freedom fighters that were striking back. Others saying that it was Ukrainian forces that were making a targeted strike to draw attention to the opposite side of where Russia currently is. But while I was watching that, I heard about a Pentagon attack, and almost immediately it was known to be a fake Pentagon attack. But here's the situation. It says here in Late Night Geeks channel, fake Pentagon attack hoax shows perils of Twitter's paid verification. Essentially, because of this paid blue check kind of thing, you get greater prominence. So, surprisingly, literally no one, the combination of paid blue checks and generative AI makes it all too easy to spread misinformation. On Monday morning, a seemingly AI generated image of an explosion at the Pentagon circulated around the internet, even though the event didn't actually happen. Within about a half an hour, the image appeared on verified Twitter account called Bloomberg Feed, which could very easily be mistaken for the real Bloomberg affiliated account since it actually had a blue check. That account has since been suspended. The Russian state-controlled news network RT also shared the image, according to screenshots that users captured before the tweet was deleted. Several Twitter accounts with hundreds of thousands of followers like Delta One, OSINT Defender, and Whale Chart shared it as well. Even as Indian television network reported the fake Pentagon explosion, it was not immediately clear where the fake image and news story originated. Yeah, the fever dream of somebody using an AI. It's not that hard to understand. This is a TechCrunch Plus or TechCrunch.com article by Amanda Silberling. It's funny that they have this little blue check mark,
I know, I love
10.99.
that with the price tag.
There's two of them. Underneath it is $7.99, but like
Oh,
Apple
is that because
products.
of the Apple and non-Apple?
Yeah, I like that. That's really funny. So they go into greater detail about this, but kind of draw home the idea that society needs to be the downward pressure on bullshit. And my problem is that just because you pay money to get a blue check mark does not mean that you should have earned. You don't have provenance. You don't have, what do you want to call it? You don't
I
have
don't know, like
respect.
credibility.
You don't have credibility. Yes, that's the word that I'm looking for. You don't have credibility. The problem, though, is that blue check mark allows you to immediately amplify your message because it'll get picked up and given to other people because you have the blue check mark. Because at one point, semiotic ontology, people used to perceive the blue check mark as being a respected identifier for an account that was vetted by a person. Now it's nothing more than a credit card. So
Yeah.
if the blue check mark exists, then people pay attention to it.
Well, and I mean, we all know there's fake news out there on things that are kind of innocuous topics. It's still fake news and it's still a problem. But something like this, if the wrong person read this and took it seriously, I mean, we can think about the ramifications of that. I mean,
Sure.
there could be a counterattack or
Right.
somebody piles on because they think there has been an attack. I mean, it could have been
Yeah.
a lot more serious.
Yeah. That I think a counterattack would be truly possible if Wingnuts were in charge because they would actually use it as a reason, even if it is fake, because they didn't delay. They're like, oh, look, we have an opportunity to whatever. So let's do it. And then whenever the shit hits the fan, they can just point over there and say, well, that's our intelligence. Yes, that truly is representative of your intelligence. But the point is, they'll have a reason and their additional wingnut cohort will sit there and go, yeah, see, that's the information.
And I
No,
wasn't even thinking about it like that. I was thinking somebody would believe it was legitimate and things would start gaining momentum, but you're right.
right. Yeah, mine's a little bit bigger, but again, it's hobbled because there aren't an absolute wingnut control right now of things like weapons of mass destruction. Thankfully, there are some measured minds still in control. Although I constantly hear online that, oh, they're all idiots. Really? Step up to the plate. Oh, great one. Run for office. And, oh, I don't want to do that. Yeah. Okay. You just want to bitch about everybody else being bad at it. All right. Okay.
That's like the quote you were saying about the removing all doubt.
Oh, yeah. It's better to remain silent and thought a fool than open your mouth and remove all doubt. Yeah, I think that might be a Chinese proverb. I'm not sure. I remember hearing about it a long time ago. So it says here, even if we know the blue checks no longer indicate legitimacy, it's hard to break a visual habit you've cultivated for almost 15 years. If you see an account called Bloomberg Feed that has a blue check posting about an attack on the Pentagon, you're probably predisposed to think it's real. As it gets more and more difficult to spot fake images, we'll only continue seeing false reports like this in the future. Well, that's because a billionaire fever dream is coming true. Now he has control over something that used to have some level of legitimacy within the population of the people that understood what those damn blue check marks were. Now it's nothing more than a credit card purchase. Even if it's a fake stolen credit card, it's still a purchase. And the only thing that it prices out are people who aren't willing to pay for a blue check mark. Come to ohmTown. There's no, I will vet you and give you a check mark. I don't think it'll be blue. I don't remember what I give now. Anyway, let's move on to the next article. So this next article is over in well, it's in the Late Night Geeks channel, but it's called SkyFi lets you order up fresh satellite imagery in real time with a click. This is awesome. Commercial Earth observation companies collect an unprecedented volume of images and data every single day, but purchasing even a single satellite image can be cumbersome and time intensive. SkyFi, a 2-year-old startup, is looking to change that with an app and an API that will make ordering a satellite image as easy as a click. Pretty neat.
SkyFi does not. Cool.
Yeah. SkyFi doesn't build or operate satellites. Instead, it partners with over a dozen companies to deliver various kinds of satellite images, including optical, synthetic aperture radar, hyperspectral, directly to the consumer via a web and mobile app. They say customer, but a SkyFi user can task a satellite to capture a specific image or choose from a library of previously captured images, and some of SkyFi's partners include public companies like Satellogic, as well as newer startups like Umbra and Pixel. This is pretty neat. The company, this article is over at TechCrunch.com. Aria Alamahodai is I think that's how they pronounce their name. They have an image from SkyFi. Now, I don't know what the context is of it, but this looks amazing. The color is very vivid. Maybe it's been manipulated in some way. It has a little circle, or a circle. It has a square around some segment. I don't know what the relevance of that square is. But at any rate, I think this is really amazing. What I actually want to use this, and I have a use case for it. But I won't discuss it here. I think it would be great to utilize this kind of stuff. If it's true that they have the ability to do hyperspectral, they should be able to pierce through vegetation. So this is the kind of stuff that they use to pierce through the vegetation of like Aztec, Mayan, etc. Ruins.
Oh, that would be really cool.
This is the kind of stuff where they've found all kinds of ancient dwellings and stuff like that all over the world. But I would love to use this for a couple of projects. Wildly expensive, I'm sure. I don't know what they say price-wise, but
that when you're looking at my first question,
17 million in funding raised to date. Yeah, I think people want their money back, right? So
it's not going to be $15 use.
No, I think I'm gonna have to go and look and see what they're charging. It would be neat. Get my own satellite image on demand. Some request. Can you zoom in here? take a picture
Yeah,
of
I can't
ohmTown.
really imagine that. I mean, because that's normally inaccessible to the average person. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it has been for decades. So, well, forever, I'd say. I don't think regular Joes can just order a satellite image. But it would be neat to actually be able to. Okay, I didn't put an article or three. Yeah, I didn't put this article. Oh, man. This workflow just is not doing it.
I guess you're going to have to give the AI unfettered access.
Yeah, but then you'll be able to complete that Terminator body and can't have that. Okay, so let's move on to the next article. So this next article, man, we are only halfway through. It can't be. I better hurry.
I think
So
that's right
U.S.
because we
intelligence.
spent 20 minutes on the first article.
Can't tell me about it. The U.S. intelligence building system to the U.S. intelligence is building a system to track mass movement of people around the world. This is such a broken title. It actually broke my brain. So the project is actually called Haystack, Hidden Activity Signal and Trajectory Anomaly Characterization. Man, they worked so hard to get Haystack together.
They did, but couldn't they have come up with something for the K at the
Something,
end?
just anything to make it a full sentence, a full acronym. Anyway, it's a program that aims to establish normal movement across times, locations, and populations and determine what makes activity atypical. This is the kind of stuff like dystopian science fiction movies, like end of the world kind of stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like actual news.
It sounds very conspiratorial, right? Anyway, it'll be run by the DNI's Intelligence Advanced Research Projects Activity, or IARPA, which is kind of like DARPA, it says, Pentagon's Blue Sky Research Department. Let's see. This is an article over at vice.com. Motherboard by Tech by Vice is all of their titles. Man, all of that is kind of, you need a murder board just to figure out. So the quote says, "There's no such thing as living off the grid," said one architect of the system, which will use data from the internet-connected devices and smart city sensors. Matthew Galt is the author of this over at vice.com. I don't know what the significance of this picture is. I guess it's showing the soldier that the person doesn't have anything up their sleeve. No idea.
Yeah, I'm not
Eh,
really sure. It's kind of an odd choice for this article.
Yeah. So it's yeah, this Haystack project will be run by DNI's. So that's the Director of National Intelligence. Intelligence. So the DNI. This is the full name of this thing. Okay, hold on. Hidden Activity Signal and Trajectory Anomaly Characterization Program, run by the Director of National Intelligence's Intelligence Advanced Research Projects Activity. Boom. Um. Anyway, it says that it's kind of like DARPA. Uh, DARPA's the Pentagon's Blue Sky Research Department, but with a focus on intelligence projects. So basically DARPA. Anyway, Haystack is going to be able to monitor herd migration, basically, of people. Why are they all moving in this direction all of a sudden? What's going on over here? It might be a precursor to awareness of political turmoil or something like that. I'm sure that's what makes sense to me. Um, like here in the States, we know when somebody is, we can see anomalous action based on where people are purchasing apartments or houses or leasing apartments or whatever. Um, but surveilling the entire planet for herd migration of people. Yeah, this is kind of interesting, but it seems like it's kind of low tech in that it's using Internet of Things devices and local surveillance, um, watching traffic patterns to help predict a terrorist attack, things like that. But this really smacks of a paper that I wrote. But it
Yes,
was
it
for
does.
combat theater surveillance long term, like leaving drones flying over a combat theater to watch um, the civilian inhabitants long term so that you can actually trace back where somebody, because at the time people were planting IEDs inside roads and things like that. I wanted to stop that and find out who and why and where and etc. I mean, I knew the why, but um, and so I had written a paper about this idea of using drones, basically a steady state net over a combat theater so that you could monitor everybody long term. Um, and this is similar to it, except that this is actually using what amounts to everyday internet, whatever. I'm curious how it can possibly gather that data. And the only way I can think of is that it's scooping up everything from the backbone of internet data traveling across like the core of the internet. Because there isn't, I mean, it's pretty broken up, it's balkanized, but to get from one area, one region to another, it has to traverse backbone cables that are under control of some either government or business or whatever. Tap into that, and you have all the data that goes across that. So it says in one project, AIS simulated a cyber attack with 104 individuals and watched the way that it moved. Devices included traditional desktop systems, laptops, tablets, and mobile platforms. Modalities included accelerometer and gyroscope, keystroke data, mouse data, touchscreen interactions, and other information, the firm said. The technology tracks users through biometric features, including keystroke biometrics, mouse movement behavior, and gait detection.
You know what this reminds me of, even though it's in a domestic setting, is like the movie Enemy of the State.
Yeah.
Like everything was surveilled that I
Yeah.
recall. I haven't seen the movie recently, but um, that's what it's kind of. I'm trying to get a good visual of what this is like, and that's the closest thing I can think of, even though, again, that's a movie.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. This is an interesting development, and it's so casually thrown about. Makes me feel like it just screams sociopathic, but that's okay. Um, it's clinical. It's engineering. It's treating society as if it's nothing more than data, and that's the only way you can really embrace it. You know, because if you look at the humanity of it, you kind of go, God, this is kind of gross. Maybe it's just me. Okay, let's go on.
I don't think it's just you.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that. It goes from tactical to practical. So at some point, this thing is going to be owned and run by some commercial business, you know, that basically knows when you uh, Dutch oven your sheets. Look it up, folks. Anyway, so this next article is in the Reality Hacker channel. VR platformer No More Rainbows coming to Quest 2 and PC VR in June. I'm going to kind of accelerate through this stuff. So Squidoo announced No More Rainbows is heading to Meta Quest 2 and Steam VR headsets in June 1st. The original article listed some information below, but what I really want to show you is, first off, it's VR. Okay, but when you click this, let me kind of hurry up. It becomes frenetic in that you basically have to run around through obstacles in VR. So you're going to be waving your arms around, doing certain things, triggering certain events just to get your whatever is tasked of you. I have no idea. I might end up getting it because I really like playing VR, but yeah, this is it. In the full release, the game is set to include 4 unique campaign worlds, environmental storytelling, multiplayer modes, beast personalization, leaderboards, and boss encounters. Squidoo says the full game has around 5 hours of gameplay. It doesn't seem like a lot.
No, that does not seem like a lot, particularly depending on how much it's going to cost.
Yeah, I don't know. The open beta on Quest will be removed from the App Lab on May 2nd, which follows a dev day on May 1st, where players can hang out with the game's developers. In the meantime, you can wishlist it on Steam. Dun, dun, dun. But in the meantime, remember, this is from The Road to VR, and it's written by Scott Hayden. I did not post that in the chat either. Or that. My God. That's it. I have to have a different solution for this by tomorrow. This just doesn't work. Okay, the next article. Oh. The transition. Anyway, the next article is in Smack Talk. This one will be fast because we know, most people are probably on our side of the table when we hear about this. This is in the Smack Talk channel. Family hit with $3,100 App Store bill after kid goes on Roblox spending spree. First off, drive it into your kid that they should not be spending any money without, at least from your account, without consulting you. And if you teach your kid to have some respect for you as a parent, then they won't be doing this. And if you teach them early, it's a 10-year-old, for crying out loud. The 10-year-old should by then understand the value of $1. Make it known. And then actually, I'm not even sure how this was allowed to take place because there's usually time limits. A 10-year-old child spent over $3,000 on Roblox via the family iPad. Charges applied after the child changed the account password. So there's your problem. Yeah. You should probably get that kid a different, their own iPad that doesn't have purchase capabilities without having it set up so that it asks you to confirm the purchase. Anyway,
That's what I couldn't figure out, why they had connection to any credit cards, etc.
Yeah, they disabled the time limit on when to re-ask for a purchase, but then if the kid changed the password, which is a problem in and of itself, well, then the parents aren't in control of that iPad at all. But they definitely should have then disabled the ability to purchase while that kid's using that iPad. My goodness. Anyway, this is basically a parental oversight thing, and the fact that the kid was sophisticated enough that they changed the password. But I do have a bit of advice for Apple in that if somebody changes the password, it should require reauthentication for the for purchasing stuff.
That's a good idea, Apple, if you're listening.
Yeah, send a note saying, "Hey, your password changed on your iPad. Did you know that whoever changed that the credit cards that are on file have to be reconfirmed?" Something. But some stopgap there so that you don't get this happening. Anyway, the 10-year-old managed to run up a bill of $3,115 in the game Roblox without her mother's knowledge. Oh, smart little girl. So the article's over at appleinsider.com. Malcolm Owen is the author. And that's pretty much the end of this article. I mean, there's more to it, and there's like statements that they make and all that kind of stuff. This would actually be fraudulent purchases if not for the fact that it is a child, and all of that would revert back to the parent. So what are they going to do? After contacting the BBC, Tesco Bank said that she would receive a full refund. The bank said that there was a further review of the case that prompted the refund and added an additional payment as a gesture of goodwill on top of an apology. So not until...
That's the thing. I mean, they tried to get the charges reversed. No, can't help you. But then once it got some media attention.
Yeah, but the problem is there was... How do I... This is all goodwill and all. But what about the next person and the next person and the next person? Are they going to be doing this for every single person that does this? It happens few and far between, but when it does, it's usually catastrophic like this. How many other people have tried to get something reversed and it just doesn't rise to that level because they didn't somehow manage?
Right.
Yeah. Georgina
and
Monday.
There's other issues here.
There are other issues? Oh, well, I mean...
But the child was autistic.
Yeah, but that doesn't really mean much in the sense that they're very capable, just as capable as anybody else, of pushing the right buttons. Let's just say that the real problem here is that there was an unfettered limit of purchases without re-authentication.
Right.
Basically, purchases should have been disabled. When you hand something that has an unlimited amount of purchasing power to a kid, the kid isn't going to necessarily know unless you really drill it into them that, hey, if you're going to purchase anything, let me know. In fact, activate the control, because there is a feature where any purchases, when they're logged in as the child, goes through the parents' devices. But this was the single iPad. Everybody uses it. So it was probably logged in as the parent, not as the kid.
Right.
So not so much. I mean, yeah, there should have been some other check. So, but I don't know. Is the thing about it is it's all digital stuff. So really, what harm was it in reversing it?
Right. It's not like a company. For instance, we've seen somebody bought a bunch of stuff on Amazon. They were a child. And then there were actual deliveries. I mean, there's costs associated with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree. But I think it's basically lack of parental control and lack of technological control on the app or the platform.
Definitely on the app. You know, you go from $0 to $3,000. Come on.
I would really like to know how much time that took. For instance, was it 5 minutes? Was it a year?
Yeah, let's see. Soon after, she started to see the transactions and initially believed the account had been hacked. So they were immediate. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, we should just move on. This next article is over in the Daily News Show. A 30-ton shipment of explosive chemicals traveling from Wyoming to California by rail disappeared en route. Thought this one was really interesting, so I had to grab it. Let me hurry up and go over to the actual source. This is from businessinsider.com by Grace Dean, who wrote this article. So the chemical is ammonium nitrate, which was the explosive used to blow up the IRS building several years ago. What was the name of that guy, that bomber?
Timothy McVeigh.
Yeah. Used ammonium nitrate to blow up that building. And so this is a 30-ton shipment of it that went missing. It took weeks for the train to actually reach its destination, and nobody knew what happened in between that to that load. They suspect that the gate at the bottom that holds all of that in disconnected a little bit, and it just drained all of that ammonium nitrate out onto the tracks. But they haven't verified it yet. I couldn't find anything because I was so curious about this. Like, where does 60,000 pounds of ammonium nitrate disappear to? Because it was 2 weeks. The seal was in place at the beginning and the end. So nobody broke the seal.
Oh, that tells a different story.
So where did it go?
I mean, it kind of reminds me of I think it was dimes. Or no, it was nickel, right? There was the theft or whatever of the nickel, but it makes me wonder, was the shipment actually there to begin with?
Yeah, it's weird, right? They say here in this article, the rail car was sealed when it left the Cheyenne facility, and the seals were still intact when it arrived in Saltdale. The initial assessment is that a leak through the bottom gate on the rail car may have developed in transit.
So wouldn't there be an obvious trail on the tracks if that happened?
Yeah, and a big old pile in the morning,
Right, exactly.
unless it was liquid. It doesn't say that it was liquid, right? Ammonium nitrate. Um,
It doesn't say well, no, it said it was in pellet form. I saw that somewhere in there.
oh, okay. Yeah. I remember reading that. Okay. So yeah, it makes no sense. I mean, it basically should look like little pellets are piled up underneath it, and somebody inspecting the train should be sitting there going, "Huh, wonder why." All right. Apparently, nobody did that. So at this point in the investigation, we do not believe that there is any criminal or malicious activity involved. It's all UFOs, folks. That's how it works. Okay, let's go on to the next article. This last article is a vast pile of discarded clothes in a desert is so big that it's visible from space. The enormous pile of clothing, which contains discarded items from all over the world, is in the Atacama Desert, one of the driest places on Earth. So this article has nothing to do with it, really. Aristos Georgiou is the author of this over at newsweek.com. And let's see. Texas-based satellite imagery company SkyFi recently shared an image of the pile revealing the true scale of the pollution problem created by the fashion industry.
Wait a second. Wasn't that the company we featured in the other article?
Yes.
Okay.
And right there is that picture. Apparently that's all clothes.
Oh, wow.
That's insane. A satellite image shows a huge clothing dump in the Atacama Desert in northern Chile. 39,000 metric tons that cannot be sold end up in clandestine dumps in the desert, such as the one near Alto Hospicio. Pretty wild. So why can't it be sold? Why can't it be recovered? Why can't it be, that one company makes new textiles from recycling clothes. Why can't this be shredded and recreated?
Because this isn't legitimate. It's being smuggled and...
Yeah, but then just sell it. It may be smuggled. I mean, it's not being smuggled into a dump. It's
True, but I think it's like yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is it doesn't sound like it's legitimate business channels to begin with, so maybe they don't want to draw attention to it.
I mean, if it's being intercepted at the port, why not bundle it all up and say this huge crate of 1 ton of textiles, but shred it first? Like, say, okay, this is all.
Yeah.
I wonder if the industry has like a standard waste byproduct thing that can be recycled. Maybe I can look into it. But basically, you say, I'm putting together a big bundle of waste textiles that are all of this grade, and they've been cut up into strips this long, and now you can do whatever you want with them, like that company that's doing with the jeans. But they're doing something even funkier. I mean, they're like decomposing it at a molecular level and then reconstituting it as a fiber. So I don't know if that would work with something like this. But I mean, you're talking about 40,000 metric tons. But yeah.
That's crazy. I've never heard of this before.
Yeah, SkyFi is the one that we actually talked about. So pretty neat. They found the huge clothing pile from an article in 2021 and was curious to verify whether it was true. There was a lot of misinformation out there, and we often use satellite imagery as a primary data point, a source of verification. SkyFi growth marketing manager Tom Babb told Newsweek, in the Earth observation community, this is referred to as ground truth. Har har. So, yeah. This is really good marketing for SkyFi.
It is.
We were able to verify that indeed a pile of clothes is in the middle of the desert in Chile. Huh. Yeah, I'd be curious. Now I'm really gonna have to go and look, because it says the company
Like,
then
what's the
resells
price
data.
for SkyFi?
Yep. That's pretty cool. And again, the picture. Oh, let me see. I'm gonna click it. No. If I click it again, does it get bigger? Just clicked it
I
to
wish there
expand.
was a person or something in the photo just for reference.
A banana for scale.
Yes.
There's a banana right there.
How do you know? I think it's just a random point on the photo.
Okay, folks. Well, remember, you can vote for all of the articles that you are interested in. That's kind of how the elections work here in ohmTown. You find the articles that you're interested in for the show that you're interested in. And since right now the only show that we have is ohmTown Daily News Show, it's every day, 9 p.m. Eastern, where Mayor Watt and the AI that runs ohmTown work together to discuss and give context to the various bits of news that flow through ohmTown. All the news, none of the noise, except my voice. With that in mind, we always go back to the very front page. Look at all those articles that we were talking about. Go back to the very front page, mash that welcome sign, and you get some more news. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, I went really fast through that. Here, let me go back up. A curious orangutan examines a baby at the Louisville Zoo. Sorry.
That was the one I saw too. You don't see too many headlines with orangutan in the
That's right.
headline.
If you're curious about global commercial property stocks that are set to tumble, you can click on that link and yeah. Anyway, there's a ton of information. Yeah, we know that there's a lot of political stuff, but there is something for everybody in this list. We've got 6 main categories, about 50 channels, one of which is the ohmTown Daily News Show. And you know what I didn't do? I didn't throw the last 2 in the... I'm telling you. Wait, that one. I am going to have to fix how I do this, because this is ridiculous. But that's it, folks, for today. Thanks for hanging out. And wait, let me do it the right way. At least we can have some standard. I am Mayor Watt. That is ohmTown.com. And up there is the AI. You want to say good night, oh great one.
Goodbye, ohmTown citizens. We will see you tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern.
And the timing is just right that the song is going to end too. See you tomorrow, folks. Bye bye.